Person was near perfect, didn't make many mistakes, purposely stayed in the dark. And for law enforcement and the community to come together and make this arrest is just phenomenal.
So this is who police believe is the serial killer who killed 5 people in Stockton and then 1 person in Oakland. Stockton police said over the weekend, in the middle of the night, Wesley Brownlee was on a mission to kill with this gun that you see right here. That is until they stopped him. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point. We're going beyond the headlines to give you more context and more information about issues impacting Northern California. So tonight, of course, we're starting in Stockton. The suspected serial killer has grabbed national headlines. The city of Stockton itself has been on edge, with hundreds of law enforcement members investigating tips that have flooded in from the community. And in less than 90 days, they have made an arrest. The suspect will be in court tomorrow. We'll learn more about the charges that prosecutors will bring. So Van 2 has been following this case. And Van, after all of this, we still don't know a motive, do we?
No, Alex, there is no clear motive that has been determined. What we do know is that victims were usually alone in the wee hours of the morning when they were gunned down. But with the arrest of Brownlee as the prime suspect, we are finding concerning patterns through public records. So take a look at this map behind me, and all of these red dots you see here with the gun. These are where the shootings occurred in this Stockton serial killer investigation. We pulled these public records for Brownlee, a longtime resident of Stockton, and laid over addresses associated with him and relatives over the past couple of decades. So we should see that now. These are the green dots of those addresses, and you can see that 3 of them occurred right next to addresses that are associated with Brownlee. So up here by East Hammer Lane, down here at West Lane and Manchester Avenue. So all of these killings, when you look at them all, they all occurred within 2 miles of these addresses. We went here to the Meridian Point apartment complex, which is listed as a relative's address. It's where Jonathan Hernandez Rodriguez was shot and killed in the parking lot. His neighbor says he's still in shock because he saw Brownlee a few times coming out of the apartment next to his.
Didn't really interact with him very much. Just seen him walking past when I was outside. Didn't say anything to me, really just walked by and head nod sort of deal and just kept, going.
And over at the Pacific Point Apartments, also listed as a relative's address, is where this security camera captured a person of interest in the police investigation. It is just across the street from where victim Juan Cruz was gunned down on Manchester Avenue in September.
So, Van, you've been in the community. Are people asking, are these coincidences or is this the right guy?
Yeah, it has been a common question that I've been hearing. They're asking, did police get the right guy? Do they think so? As this case now goes through the justice system. And so far, police say the killings are interconnected by ballistics and that their investigators had been tailing Brownlee, who had exhibited a pattern of being on an active hunt for a victim when they arrested him.
All right, Van, thank you. And we are hearing one-on-one from the Stockton police chief and the San Joaquin County District Attorney about this arrest. The district attorney says that there will be more charges announced tomorrow, and she explains why officials are being so tight-lipped. At least for now they are. So she shares if they feel that they have the right guy in custody.
As a prosecutor, I'm ethically bound not to try the case in the public forum. I'm to try it in the courtroom because everybody that's watching your show is one of my potential jurors. And if I'm contaminating them, the court can move the case to another jurisdiction, which is a huge expense for my county, or it can my office could get in trouble for trying a case in public. So when you see a lot of these people being bombastic or highly inflammatory, it's unprofessional. And it's unethical. I'm very confident, based on the totality of the circumstances and the evidence that's been presented to me at this time, we have the right person in custody. So I don't bring people into a custody and charge them with cases unless I believe beyond a reasonable doubt that they committed the crime. And that's true on every case. Trust. We trusted in the skills that we have to do a good investigation. And that led us to knock on every door, to leave no stone unturned. So we trusted in the tools and resources we have that we've known and proven. We used upon the best evidence practices to make sure that we were using every investigative tool. And we trusted the community, and the community trusted us. And by working together and building that trust, in less than 90 days, we brought a serial killer into custody.
We are told several hundred people have been working this case. And over the weekend, the Stockton Police Department says that they were surveilling a person of interest. We now know that was Brownlee. But the Stockton police chief says that they had to stop their surveillance and go into enforcement mode when they thought the suspect, again, Brownlee, was going to kill someone. Now the chief is answering more questions that people want answers to. So let's get into it. Here we go. The first question: has the department been able to link that gun to any of the murders that occurred in Stockton or Oakland? The answer to that, the chief says that the ATF is handling all of the ballistics evidence and has been partnering with the police department, and the chief hopes to hear from them soon. Another question: a search warrant was executed around the same time of that arrest. Was there anything notable recovered from the home? So the chief said due to the ongoing investigation, he will not disclose what may or may not have been found at the location. And then the third question: are there possibly more victims that have not been identified yet? The chief says that they are going to stay aggressive and that they don't know everywhere where this suspect has been, but they do want anyone with information to, of course, come forward. So there is a tip line that is set up. You can remain anonymous by calling the Stockton Crime Stoppers number. That number is 209-946-0600. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are talking about hearing aids because they just became more accessible. But do not go rushing to the pharmacy just yet. We're going over what you need to know before getting the over-the-counter pair. All right, let's talk about hearing loss because millions of people in America, they struggle with it. But according to the Hearing Loss Association of America, only 1 in 5 people who would benefit from a hearing aid actually use one. But that could all soon be changing because starting today, stores like Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart, they are offering over-the-counter hearing aids thanks to an FDA rule change. And it's just for people with mild to moderate hearing loss. So take note of that. Until now, hearing aids required a prescription from an audiologist and cost about $4,000 to $5,000. I will say I was very surprised to hear that cost. I did not think they cost that much. But that's not to mention that most insurance plans, they don't even cover the cost. But the majority of the over-the-counter hearing aids, they bring down the cost to hundreds of dollars. So here's what local experts had to say that you should know.
So it's always a good thing that you have, it's great that there's cheaper hearing aids that might be out there, but seriously, my best advice is before you start running out to buy something, it's always best to get a consult with an audiologist for an audiological exam first. There's various different levels and types of hearing loss. And so the reason why it's important for you to get an audiological exam so that you get the right fit, the right type. So, and if you don't get the right fit or the right type, it can cause even more damage to your residual hearing.
Could you say, hey, I understand that you can't afford the bigger price one, so I'm going to give you advice for what to get over the counter?
Yeah, we can definitely give recommendations. And again, getting a hearing test first is so important, just to diagnose your hearing loss, see what type of hearing loss that you have, and we can definitely give you a recommendation. And that way, with your over-the-counter hearing aids, you're able to have an actual hearing test to plug into them.
Now, experts point out that sound amplifiers are different than hearing aids. So again, that's why they say doing your homework is key, and then also checking that return policy. We do have more information about those over-the-counter hearing aids that are being sold. All you have to do is just go to abc10.com/to-the-point. All right, it has been 33 years since one of Northern California's biggest earthquakes. Why it's a reminder, we all need to be prepared. If you hear talk of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and think, I really have no idea how that works, you're definitely not alone, myself included, don't know anything about it. But we are on a mission to equip you with a basic working knowledge so that you can feel more confident as this technology becomes more common in our world. So all this week on To The Point, we are diving deep into crypto. And tonight, Becca Habegger breaks down really 2 simple things. What is cryptocurrency and why should we care?
What is cryptocurrency?
Well, cryptocurrency is digital money that can be used as a secure form of payment. Nice and easy.
So cryptocurrency is just a currency like a dollar or a peso or a euro. The difference between cryptocurrency and the dollar that you'd have in your wallet is that it only exists digitally. They don't make any paper copies. And it's not issued by a government. It's issued by the currency. So if somebody's willing to accept it to trade and barter for goods, it works just like a dollar or a euro.
You're essentially purchasing something that is completely digital. And honestly, today, most of us don't transact in cash anymore, right? We do have paper money that exists, but most of us use credit cards or we make transfers with our online bank accounts or something like Venmo.
In the financial world, we actually think of cryptocurrency as a new financial asset class. You might be familiar with other asset classes like real estate, stocks and bonds.
What about all the different kinds, like Bitcoin?
Think of crypto as the umbrella. There are lots of pieces under that umbrella. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there's Monero.
In the same way that there are sedans. Toyota makes Camrys, which is an example of a sedan. But sedans are also still motor vehicles. So Bitcoin is a specific application, a specific coin type, whereas there are certainly other types of cryptocurrencies.
So all of these cryptocurrencies are separate, and it's all technology-based.
How do these cryptocurrencies work?
All of these, whether we're talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Shiba Coin, you might have heard about NFTs or non-fungible tokens. They all really use the same technology. We call it a distributed ledger. We're used to like a centralized ledger where I can keep track of things. So if I were to ask you, how much money do you have? You could probably answer the question. You'd have to call your bank and they would tell you, this is what's in your account. With something like Bitcoin, there's not one person who keeps track of what your balance is. There's a whole network of, we call them miners, log transactions so you can keep track of your balance. So there's not one source that tracks it. That broad family is called a blockchain. Distributed ledgers and blockchains, they're like motor vehicles. And then cryptocurrency is like sedans and Bitcoin is like a Camry, but it's all part of the same family of things that will absolutely change our world in the next 10 years.
So why should I care? How does this affect me?
Why would somebody care? When we have these type of distributed ledgers, we can keep track of things that we don't currently keep track of. There's an interesting pilot that Alfa Romeo is rolling out with their new SUVs out of the UK to digitally keep track of all the maintenance records. So if you go to buy a used car, you wouldn't just take the other person's word for it that they've done all their maintenance. There would be an independently verified record for all of the upkeep and maintenance that Alfa Romeo had gone through. And so when you bought the used car, you would also buy the history. There's a lot of other types of things that we don't really have big systems to keep track of the data, and something like a distributed ledger or a blockchain is an interesting technology that will allow us to do that in the future.
The future's here. We're in the future. Cryptocurrency. What are we talking about? Okay, but are there ethical issues with this?
For sure. You know, that Sac State professor said we'll start seeing that blockchain technology used to track things like everything from driving records to house titles, but even potentially things like employee productivity. He says now is the time to be asking the ethical questions that we should be exploring, like what types of information are we as a society comfortable with letting, be tracked, and then
we're already bombarded with that online, the cookies.
Yeah, exactly, with ads, exactly. And then of course, what kinds of decisions are we okay with being made using that information? Yeah. And he says we in the past have a history of diving headlong into technology without examining these ethical questions first. So we should be talking about them now before we get into real trouble down the line.
Yeah, I agree with that. 33 years ago today, the World Series was postponed after an earthquake shook Northern California. The Bay Bridge collapsed and dozens of people were killed, and it became known as the Loma Prieta earthquake. And it is a reminder that it's not a matter of if the big one will strike, but when.
On October 17, 1989,
the Battle of the Bay continued.
During Game 3 of the World Series, cheering turned into panic.
And up above us, the lights are starting to shake a bit. You can see this building is collapsed.
What you see here now is the remnants of a fire.
From people being hit by flying objects.
A magnitude 6.9 earthquake along the San Andreas Fault.
House that slid off of its foundation
caused Bay Area buildings to crumble and freeways to collapse.
Which a section of the Bay Bridge has collapsed.
More than 60 people were killed in what became known as the Loma Prieta earthquake.
This by far is the strongest earthquake I have ever felt.
Thousands of faults weave through California like a spider web. Some have yet to be discovered. San Andreas is the most famous in California because of the damage it has and will cause. We are due for the big one.
The fault is not just one surface, right? When it breaks in a particular earthquake, you usually see one surface. But each different earthquake might move a slightly different place, and you end up creating a zone that can be a variety of width.
We took a tour along the San Andreas Fault with world-renowned seismologist Dr. Lucy Jones. Here's what she says will happen during the next big quake.
Transmission lines, if the fault doesn't run through the tower, there's often enough flexibility that they can move and stay up. However, if it runs through the tower, it's a problem. These rocks could literally be in the air. I mean, this is actually not the safest. I mean, mostly I want to be outside with nothing to fall on me, but these big boulders here could literally be thrown in the air.
Geologists say the southern part of the San Andreas Fault is 100 years overdue for a major quake. A large earthquake on the San Andreas Fault could be catastrophic for major cities anywhere close to it.
It would have pretty severe economic effects. The shaking would damage thousands of buildings. A lot of people will die.
Tim McCrink is a geologist with the California Geological Survey and says even things in your home could be deadly.
If you have gas running to your house and your house breaks.
You can see this building is collapsed. They don't know if people are still in there or if they...
Right? Something severe happens to the house. You break those pipelines. Now you're pumping gas into the atmosphere. It doesn't take much to ignite that.
We've passed the 100-year mark since a massive earthquake on the northern part of the San Andreas Fault. An earthquake in San Francisco killed 3,000 people and caused fires that burned for 3 days. Half the city became homeless.
The fire probably did more damage to the structures and perhaps to lives than the earthquake itself. But the earthquake itself did a lot of damage. The city hall was brand new and was almost completely destroyed. We know it takes decades to recover from these things, and we know that just from the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. They had their 25th anniversary not too long ago, and the word that I heard from that was that they were just finishing rebuilding some of the buildings in Santa Cruz that were damaged by that earthquake.
And it'll take a while for help to come.
We're pretty much at the center of the San Andreas Fault along Big Pine Canyon. If the big earthquake hit, all the roads around me will be impassable.
It affects everyone, and I don't know how you can't, to look at your landscape and say, why? Why not? I mean, why? How can you, it's very boring to just accept everything as being there.
The big one on the San Andreas Fault will happen at any moment. The question is, are we ready?
All right, let's take a look outside at your Gilmore backyard here. Some pretty decent temperatures, things finally cooling down. And a quick check of your 10-day forecast. Well, we all know that the news can be heavy, and the point of this show is to help make sense of all the issues that are impacting us here in Northern California. So please reach out. Let me know what's going on in your world. And there are a million ways that you can reach me and the team. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or you can just email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. I'm going to stop talking for the rest of the night. Go home. Hopefully you have a restful Monday. See you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.